Have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves because they're like the public relations agency for China. And this country pays them almost $500 million a year, and China pays them $38 million a year. And whether it's a lot or more, it doesn't matter. It's still, they shouldn't be making excuses when people make horrible mistakes, especially mistakes that are causing hundreds of thousands of people around the world to die. I think the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves.
I had a question about President Trump and his Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, have said that they've seen enormous evidence that the novel coronavirus originated in a lab in Wuhan. I'm just wondering if the U.S. has discussed or shared this evidence with the WHO, and if the WHO is looking to investigate these claims if or when you're invited to China to participate in investigations into the origin of the outbreak. Thanks.
So I can start, and perhaps Mike would like to supplement. So let me start with the public health importance of really understanding where this SARS-CoV-2 virus, the virus that causes COVID-19, comes from. What's really important is for us to understand the zoonotic source, what we call the animal source. This is a coronavirus, and coronaviruses circulate in bats, and so there's an ancestral link to bats, and that is something that we know based on the genetic sequences of this virus and other coronaviruses that circulate globally. So we know that bats are an ancestral link. What we really need to understand is the intermediate host, the animal that was infected by bats and that infected people in some of these in the earliest cases. And that's a very important piece to understand from a public health perspective so that we could prevent that from happening again. We've learned this in MERS, for example, in the beginning. We didn't know the intermediate host for MERS, and there were investigations that were taking place in the Middle East, and there was a link that was made with dromedary camels. This happens for a lot of these zoonotic pathogens. And what we need to do is we need to do these investigations, these studies, to better understand what is the animal host for COVID-19. We have discussed this with our colleagues in China, and we discussed it during the mission that I took part in February. And one of the recommendations was to be able to do those investigations and do those with our colleagues at FAO and OIE and different ministries across China. And this is an important part of our understanding of how this all began, so that we could prevent it from happening further. From all of the evidence that we have seen, from all of the sequences that are available, and there are, I believe, more than 15,000 full genome sequences available, or close to 15,000, that this virus is of natural origin. But we do need to still find the intermediate host in China, and that is something we are very supportive of to provide that support to our colleagues in China.
And just a supplement on your first question, no, we have not received any data or specific evidence from the US government relating to the purported origin of the virus. So from our perspective, this remains speculative, but like any evidence-based organization, we would be very willing to receive any information that purports to the origin of the virus, because, as Maria said, the origin of the virus is a very important piece of public health information for future control. So if that data and evidence is available, then it will be for the United States government to decide whether and when it can be shared. But it's difficult for WHO to operate in an information vacuum in that specific regard. So we focus on what we know, we focus on the evidence we have, and the evidence we have from the sequencing and from all that we have been advised is the virus itself is of natural origin, and we need to understand more about that natural origin, and particularly about intermediate hosts.